Hey everyone, it's Saoirse. Welcome to the other side of my renovated garage. I'm calling this room the conservatory now. It's kind of like a Victorian conservatory where you'd have a lot of plants and things. I do have a lot of plants in here, but they are struggling. The light is a little bit iffy, so, I'm testing these things. So today we are going to talk about one of my favorite authors. This is another George Saunders collection. It's called In Persuasion Nation. And you've heard me talk about him a lot before. I discovered him in grad school when we had to read his short stories for my creative writing degree. And I'm so grateful. I'm so grateful for that introduction to him. So he writes a lot of, I don't know if you'd call it dystopian, maybe some people would, but satire. There's 12 short stories in here. And some of them are kind of Black Mirror-esque. There's sort of a sci-fi element to some, but then there's almost a magical realism element to others. So, but the thread that goes through the entire collection in this case is this theme of advertising. It's like about the insidious nature of advertising, and yeah, it's satire about capitalism's control over us. About how we become products ourselves in this society that we find ourselves in now. As usual, we have cats eating plants. And yeah, I was really impressed by this one, and also I'm always amazed when I find a collection of his that I haven't read before, because it's not like he has a ton of them, but this might have been the last one that I had left, aside from his essays. But yes, so 12 stories, my favorites. I'll tell you the names of my favorites. John and Brad Kerrigan, American. I think those give you a great look at this book as a whole, and also at George Saunders' style of writing and his opinion about the world, especially American society, and how we are just owned by companies. So let's read some quotes from some of them, and maybe you'll get a better idea of what I mean. This is from My Flamboyant Grandson, and in this one, people are forced to watch ads, and if they don't watch them, they get in trouble, and they have to go back and watch the ones that they missed. So like walking down the street in New York, there's these things on your shoes that like tell the advertisements that you specifically are there, so all the ads around you are catered just to you, and it's so scary. And if you look away from them, you're caught, and you have to watch them. And the narrator is an older man, so he remembers when things weren't like this, and he thinks, what America is to me is a guy doesn't want to buy, you let him not buy. You respect his not buying. A guy has a crazy notion different from your crazy notion. You pat him on the back and say, hey pal, nice crazy notion, let's go have a beer. America, to me, should be shouting all the time, a bunch of shouting voices, most of them wrong, some of them nuts, but please, not just one droning, glamorous, reasonable voice. You know, it's interesting, in a lot of the reviews of Saunders, people call him funny, like the funniest writer. And I can see that. I guess I find it so depressing that what he's talking about is so true, and that it doesn't seem like we're far away from these things happening. So I find it more sad. But, everybody has a different sense of humor. I guess satire for me is like, it's a genre that I'm not really that familiar with, and, maybe he's one of the only satirists that I read. But that means he's kind of crossing, what is that called? Just crossing the line. Like, he's finding people who don't normally read satire, and I love his writing so much. His style is just so different. I guarantee you that you have not read anything like the stories in this book. They're so imaginative, and the way that they're told is so unique. Okay, this is from John, which was one of my favorite stories. And in this one, the characters, they're all, I think, teenagers, and they are raised from infancy in this facility where they are just used to test products. And that's their whole life. And because it's been their whole life, that's all they know. And they kind of speak in commercials, and they're the face of a lot of products. You know, they're on like trading cards and stuff. And it seems like they're being drugged with this sort of a like depression meds, but it's really, I think it's to keep them compliant, and so they don't really question what's going on in this world. But one of them starts a relationship with another one, and she ends up getting pregnant, and she doesn't take the drugs for a while, so she starts to think, I want to get out of here. I actually don't want to be part of this entire thing. And so the story follows her trying to convince her boyfriend or husband, I think they get married, to get out. But he's brainwashed, which makes sense because the ads are brainwashing us. So this quote from here, he's trying to talk to her about, like, why would we want to leave this place? Like, I want to be able to talk to you and explain my feelings to you in the way that I'm used to. What will it be like for us when all has been taken from us? What will we speak of? I do not want to only speak of my love in grunts. If I wish to compare my love to a love I have previous knowledge of, I do not want to stand there in the wind casting about for my metaphor. If I want to say, like, Carolyn, remember that Remax one where as the redhead kid falls asleep holding that teddy bear rescued from the trash, the bear comes alive and winks and the announcer goes, home is the place where you find yourself suddenly no longer longing for home. LI 34451. If I want to say to Carolyn, LI 34451, check it out, that is how I feel about you, well then I want to say it. I want to possess all the articulate I can, because otherwise there we will be in non-designer clothes, no longer even on trendsetters and tastemakers gum cards with our photos on them, and I will turn to her and say, honey, there's a certain feeling, but I cannot name it, and cannot cite a precedent type feeling, but trust me, dearest, wow, do I ever feel it for you right now. And what will that be like, that stupid standing there, just a man and a woman in the wind, and nobody knowing what nobody is meaning? It's bleak, it's dark. So yeah, we have ads telling us how to feel and being our only frame of reference. And this passage, and he does this multiple times throughout, and it's so shocking and upsetting where he's explaining his feelings through ads. It made me think about how I know younger people, Gen Z-ish people, who only seem to talk in memes and trends, and sometimes it's hard to talk to them because it's just references. And like, we all do pop culture references and all that, but sometimes it feels like there's no original thoughts going on, and it freaks me out. I'm sure you've met these kind of kids who are just regurgitating things that they've seen on TikTok. Yeah, it's scary, and so like a story like this just doesn't feel like fantasy at all. This one's from My Amendment, and this one was written as a letter, and it's this guy who is like, I think the satire is about the people we have in this country who are so obsessed with other people's genders, and you know, like as if it affects them, as if it affects them at all if somebody has pronouns other than what they would expect, or talks about their pronouns at all. So this is kind of making fun of that kind of person who is just weirdly obsessed with other people's gender. And he's talking about, like, it's not enough that we don't have gay marriage, but we also shouldn't have feminine men marrying masculine women. So he says, because my feeling is when God made a man and woman, he had something very specific in mind. It goes without saying that he did not want men marrying men or women marrying women, but also what he did not want, in my view, was feminine men marrying masculine women, which is why I developed my manly scale of absolute gender. So yeah, I know we all have those people on Facebook that relate to it. How do I even know you? Who are just spouting their ridiculous, hateful crap that almost seems like it must be satire because it's so absurd. The next one is from Christmas. And this was just a line that really hit me. I mean, he'll be going off on like some silly tangents, making up all kinds of inventive stuff, but then he'll say something that is just really like, oof. There comes that phase in life when, tired of losing, you decide to stop losing, then continue losing. Then you decide to really stop losing and continue losing. The losing goes on and on so long you begin to watch with curiosity, wondering how low you can go. So that made me think of like, a lot of his stories kind of symbolizing the death of the American dream. What is the American dream now at this point in this country when it's all just, everything is just about buying and selling and controlling the consumer, and to the point where we're selling ourselves and our souls and our dreams to the system, to the man. This one is from Brad Kerrigan, American, and this story might be the most interesting, kind of freaky one in here. It follows this character who is he's clearly on a sitcom, but you realize that he's not like an actor on a sitcom. These people, like, this is their life. They're all seemingly like this has been their entire life, or maybe they were kidnapped and drugged, because there's often talk in his stories about like implanted memories. So I think they like got these people, put them on this show and wiped their memory so they don't know anything before they were characters on this TV show. And really weird stuff is happening the whole time. Like their backyard changes constantly into like different things, like ancient Egypt. Suddenly the backyard is ancient Egypt. And they have a puppet talking dog. And they just keep changing the storylines, and this rapid fire changing of the story is, reminiscent of how quickly trends change, and how, you go on Instagram and like people are all making reels with the same audio, and that's the trend. And if you're not using that, like, you're not gonna be trending. So it's just quick. It's like fast fashion. You go into H&M one day and then the next day it is completely different clothing, because that's how quick everything has to change with consumerism. And consumerism is not just about physical goods. It's about how much of our minds can they occupy, how much of our day can they steal, can they take our thoughts, can they stop us from focusing on things that really matter by selling us what they want to sell. So let's see. Yeah, in this one there are a few instances of there being a commercial break on the show, and it is really upsetting stuff. In California, a fad has broken out of regular people having facial surgery to look like their favorite celebrities. Sometimes they end up looking like hideous monsters. Celebrities have taken to paying surprise, compassionate visits to the hideous monsters. One hideous monster, whose face looks like the face of a lion roasted in a fire, says the surprise celebrity visit made the whole ordeal worthwhile. In the Philippines, a garbage dump has exploded due to buildup of natural gas emitted by rotting garbage, killing dozens of children digging in dumps for food. So there's a few of those where it's this kind of silly beginning part, and it's given so much space, and then a little bit about something actual horrible going on in the world that that we need to be distracted from. And that's what this show is all about, just distracting. And so this character, he has this wake-up call of, it seems like we can just get whatever we want, and why can't we help people? Let's see. Yeah, actually I have this paragraph tabbed right here, so let's look at it. He's talking to his wife, who, is she really his wife, or is it like this is his wife on the show and they, like, he has memories of marrying her, but they might not be true. It's very sad. Look, Doris, he'll say, what's happened to you? Where has your generosity gone? Our house is huge, honey. Our refrigerator is continually full. However much money we need, we automatically have that much in the bank, and neither of us even works outside of the home. There doesn't seem to be any physical limit to what we can have or get. Why not spread some of that luck around? What if that was the point of our show, sweetie, the radical spreading around of our good fortune? What if we had, say, a special helicopter, and special black jumpsuits, and code names, and huge stores of food and medicine, and a team of expert consultants, and wherever there was need, there they would be, working to bring to bear on the problem whatever resources would be exactly most helpful. Talk about positive. Talk about entertaining. Who wouldn't want to watch that? So as you can guess, when he voices his idea, he's put into this this sort of like limbo, which is a metaphor for being written out, which, you know, is what really happens when a lot of people try to speak up about things that need to be talked about, and they're drowned by distractions. It's the same thing from thousands of years ago with the bread and circuses in ancient Rome. It's like, it's just, let's distract the people so we can't look at any issues that actually need our attention and help. So he's trying to sneak these humanitarian ideas into media, and yeah, it's obviously really relatable to our times. I mean, this book is from 2017, and it really rings true today. So in the last story, called ComCom, he kind of ends the whole book on this hopeful note, like maybe it's not, everything's not as fatalistic as we thought, and I think this is an important point to make, because we definitely get that way. Like, every time there is some piece of news about some terrible thing the government has done, and like it's clear that we've taken a step backwards, a lot of us get very fatalistic and sure that this is the end and there is no hope and nothing we do is going to change it. And the thing is, if we think like that, then nothing is going to change. And it is so hard to have hope. It really is. I mean, you're talking to me, like, the queen of hopelessness. But the important thing is remembering that we can make change, and we have throughout history. You know, good has triumphed a lot, and good sense has triumphed a lot, and saying that there is absolutely no way to fix things, and it takes away the idea that there ever could be a way. Okay, so this last line here, it says, that is why I came back. I was wrong in life, limited, shrank everything down to my size, and yet in the end there was something light craving within me, which sent me back and saved me. So in this story, it's kind of, the ending's kind of about like helping each other, saving each other, doing what we can, even if it doesn't seem like the obvious thing, to save our fellow humans. So, highly recommend this. It did not take me very long to read. I mean, you're just gonna speed through these stories, and there's no novella in this one. There's some of the stories are around 30 pages, and some are like less than 10 pages. Yeah. Have you read any George Saunders? Have you read anything that you would consider similar satire? Any good short story collections that you want to plug? Please let me know. I'm a big, big fan of short stories. And that is all we're going to talk about for now. I may have mentioned in another George Saunders video that there is at least one adaptation of one of his stories. I can't remember if it's on Netflix, but somewhere. I think it's called Escape from Spiderhead. But there are so many of his stories that I think would make incredible shows or movies, and even from stories that are 20 pages long. Like, there's such a world there, and I do not know how this man does it. Like, you know, a lot of the themes or ideas are similar, but he comes up with a different story every time, and he's written dozens of them. And I'm like, lucky if I can get out 2 short stories a year with original ideas that aren't stealing from everything else I've done. So it's really very impressive, and I think whenever we see an author like that, we're very inclined to be like, make it a book, like take the 20-page story and make it a novel. And part of me is like, yeah, like I want to read more about this one story, and also I do the same with my writing, where I'm like, I could take this short story I wrote and absolutely extend it and make it a novel and do more world building and more details, and that would be super fun. But there is something really to be said about the art of the short story, and this guy is a true artist in that sense. To look at just some of the things that people said on the back here. Saunders has been likened to other great American social satirists, Nathaniel West, Kurt Vonnegut, Thomas Pynchon, and it's a valid comparison in terms of effect, but he is definitely a voice of his own time, keeping up with the heaving cultural tide. And what is he? He's often called like the greatest short story writer in America right now. So yeah, you're missing out if you haven't checked him out. Please do. And that is it for now. I will see you all next time. Until then, happy reading.